So it's like you just never know who you're going to meet or what's going to happen from it. I think my biggest thing was I first started, I said yes to every opportunity. I can only pay you X, or I can't pay you at all, or whatever the case may be. I will say something always came from it, whether it was big or small, but I've gotten a lot of my biggest clients in the beginning from just saying yes to random things because I presented at a yoga studio on a random snowy day. And that only was supposed to have 20 people and I ended up having 4 people. And again, snow, 4 people, could have canceled myself. And I got one of my biggest paying clients. So it's like you just never know who you're going to meet or what's going to happen from it.
Jessica, I love that you mentioned that. It's saying yes, and maybe not saying yes to everything, but saying yes to opportunities. And even sometimes I think it's maybe, not
Yeah.
going no right away. It's saying maybe this will work out. Maybe it was a good idea to keep it open for 4 people. Turns out it was, but I think a lot of times it is being open to those opportunities. Join me, Jeremy Swick, on Into the Unknown, a podcast that delves into the personal journeys, stories, and experiences of individuals across diverse professions. As a historian by trade, I firmly believe that our personal histories shape our present and offer valuable insights into our paths ahead. With that being said, let's get into it. On this episode of Into the Unknown, I am joined with a very special guest, Jessica Hallahan. How are you doing today, Jessica?
I'm so great. How are you today?
I'm doing amazing. I can't complain. It's a wonderful day today.
Love it.
So, first of all, it's kind of early here in the morning, at least for me. Do you have any morning routines?
I do. I'm pretty strict on my morning routine. We get up pretty early. My husband's in construction, so we're up out of bed by 5:30 the latest. Making the breakfast, making the lunch, getting that going. Walk the dogs. I have a foxhound and a puggle, so they get a little different walks, and then I go for a run.
It's so nice to have that routine, I think. I'm kind of blown away sometimes when people tell me they don't have kind of a morning routine. And like, for me, I don't even know if I could function or even handle that.
I can, when I don't follow the routine, and like a weekend, obviously, like things are flexible, right? We're not getting up that early, but I still kind of follow it, and I can tell when I don't. I can tell, like, my mind, my brain's like, what am I doing? Who am I? What's my name again? Good question. Okay.
I can't agree more. I like to kick off the show and talk about the importance of networking. How are we connected?
We met through the Facebook podcast group. I think I posted, or I followed you. I
Yeah.
might have posted. I think I posted. It was like, hey, looking, and then you commented, and yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I love that group. Of course, like any group, you kind of got to weed out some things, but in general, it's been such a great opportunity to connect with people otherwise that, you typically wouldn't.
I 100% agree. Again, like there's pros and cons to everything, whether it's networking, all that kind of stuff. But even with groups, yes, there's pros and cons. But I generally think it's a good group.
Couldn't agree more. And I think so much of it is when you do this enough, you can start to kind of weed out people's intention. And maybe it's just going off the gut, but sometimes I feel like it's all right, let me double click into this person. Okay, one, they're a real person. It's not a bot, but also like they have a message and a story.
Yes, I don't know if we have time to stress about bots right now, but yes, that's it. That's the thing.
I couldn't agree more. So I want to know a little bit more about you. That comic book issue #1, that origin story. Who are you?
Yeah. So my outside of business hat, I am a wife. I'm a dog mom. We have a puggle that's 15 years old, and we just recently brought home a 1.5-year foxhound. So, like I was saying earlier, 2 different energies, 2 different lifestyles. And then, other than that, we love hiking, we love camping, we like being outdoors. And then with the business hat, I started my career in the drug and alcohol field. So I was working with men reducing their sentence from jail, coming into rehab, wanted to be on the prevention side of things, got my master's in public health, did my last practicum about stress management on how to communicate among your team. And my professor said, hey, you can start a business. And so I said, how hard can it be?
So it's one thing to say you can start a business. What really prompted you to go down that field to begin with?
To the drug and alcohol field, I grew up in a household with addiction, and I didn't fall into what I thought was an addiction trap. Later learned that addiction comes in different forms. And then so I started in that field, and then realized that rotating door, whether it was rotating therapists because they were so burnt out, or it was a rotating of the clients because they literally would go out into the real world and then go, hey, stress happened. I have this old habit. It's so easy. We all have an old habit that we fall into, right? And then they would be back. And so my mindset was there has to be some if it's in both worlds, there has to be something, right? So that's kind of where that trigger came from.
Oh, that makes sense. So with the business, did you jump right out of school and start the business, or how did that unfold?
I did. I was my last practicum. I was at a dentist office. So I kind of was able to still work there as I learned how to even start a business, pre-chat GBT days, things like that. So, which he is my bestie now, but before, yeah. So it was more of like, what do I do? And so I started just going to my local library. I was like, hey, I have a workshop. I want to try it. I tried it somewhere else. Can I try it here? And then I would just kind of mention the networking piece, right? So then a mom would be in that workshop, be like, hey, you know what? I have another library. Do you want to come to a library that I go to? And then it kind of just started to snowball from there.
I think it's one of those important things, as we mentioned already, networking. But I think putting yourself out there and giving yourself those opportunities to be successful is crucial. It's not always everything's going to come right to you. A lot of times, especially with starting a business, you really have to go out there and get after it.
Oh, for sure. I think my biggest thing was I first started, I said yes to every opportunity. They're like, oh, I can only pay you X, or I can't pay you at all, or whatever the case may be. I will say something always came from it, whether it was big or small. But I've gotten a lot of my biggest clients in the beginning from just saying yes to random things because I presented at a yoga studio on a random snowy day. And that only was supposed to have 20 people and I ended up having 4 people. And again, snow, 4 people, could have canceled myself and I got one of my biggest paying clients. So it's like you just never know who you're going to meet or what's going to happen from it.
Jessica, I love that you mentioned that. It's saying yes, and maybe not saying yes to everything, but saying yes to opportunities. And even sometimes I think it's maybe, not
Yeah.
going no right away. It's saying maybe this will work out. Maybe, maybe it was a good idea to keep it open for 4 people. Turns out it was, but I think a lot of times it is being open to those opportunities.
Yes. I love the maybe aspect for sure.
So you tell me you start to get a little more client, get a little more traction. What happens after that?
Well, what happens after that is that you have to learn to then say no, right? So it's learning then what does that balance look like? I started a thing after my first year in business that every year I go, okay, what is it that I don't need anymore? Or does it make me happy? Right. So the first year on top of saying yes to every opportunity, it was also saying yes to every networking opportunity. And listen, I love a good, beer at a bar, hanging out with some friends and networking, and I'm air quoting, right? And sometimes that's what it turns into because you see the same people at the 6 networking meetings, and then it just, and it's just friends, which is great. And I'm still friends with a lot of them, but with that time, that's taking time away from working on a project with a client and or taking time away from hanging out with my family, right? Or just myself, right? And so I think, it's learning what that balance looks like in each stage, right? Because what is busy now might not be busy later because you have different systems, you have a team, you have or whatever the case may be, or that part of your business is really important. So you have to do it, right? And so it's like sometimes we have to push through. And so it's having those check-ins, I think is really important.
Jessica, you touched on a very important point, and I knew you were going to touch on it. Is the you just talk about saying yes and saying maybe, but then to say no. And sometimes it is those opportunities and networking opportunities because, as you know, it does get repetitive. You see the same people, and sometimes I'm like, we probably could catch up on LinkedIn or a quick, Zoom call instead of me driving 30 minutes out to again the bar or wherever we're going to meet up, which is great. And I think there's a place for that,
For
especially
sure.
when you're first getting started. But I think as you get more advanced in your business and different priorities change, I think it's one of those things to say no. And I think, well, no, I know it's also being firm with what you believe your pricing is. And it's a very uncomfortable conversation. I feel uncomfortable even talking about it right now, which makes me laugh a little bit. But it's one of those things where, as you mentioned, clients that no longer maybe align with you, or and we all have clients and maybe they don't make us the happiest. We know when we first start, yes, you're my check, and that's okay. But also, it's like as you advance in your business and career, it's one of those things to really, I think, to have a successful your successful own business is making sure those people you work with are aligned with you.
Oh yeah, I think it's two things. One, only because we were talking about networking. Again, love networking. It's got me to where I'm at in a lot of ways. And but I was taught that networking is one letter away from not working. So just like keeping that in mind, again, being firm. But again, like when it comes to clients, I think especially in the beginning, right? You have things to pay for, because you have to buy every shiny object, you have to pay, and everything has a dollar sign to it. Like, oh, have a newsletter, great. Well, that costs money. Oh, well, have this. Well, that costs money, right? So, so it's that totally makes sense too. And then it's like, if they're not your people, that's why there's so many of us, right? I think sometimes we go, oh, well, there's another person that does what I do. Great, great, because then when that client calls, it's like, this is everything I want. Okay, well, if that's not your forte and that's not something you're able to do, no worries. I have somebody that I can give to you. So now you still have a relationship with that person, that client, and maybe you don't work with them on that specific project, but maybe you find a different way to work with them, or they send you. I've gotten referrals from people that I've said no to, but because I've helped them in other ways, right? So I think it's learning who your person is without being cheesy about it, right? Like if that's not your jam, that's not your jam, and that's okay, right? But you have to learn what your jam is.
I love that you mentioned that, Jessica. It's learning, learning who your people are, and I think a lot of it is experiencing it. Is if you don't, again, you don't know what you don't know. So I think it is coming from that experience. Oh, I really liked working with this specific type of person, and oh, I thought this was going to be my person because this is kind of what I like, and these are who my friends are. Sometimes it's like,
Yes.
and I'm like, oh wait, no, this is not because you're like my friend, so I can't pressure you to do anything I need done because we're more hanging out than the client relationship.
Oh, it's so true. It's so funny. If you look at my website, it's all pink, right? It's very pinky, and I've kept it because it's who I am now. But it's because I was like, I'm going to be a woman speaker, and I'm going to only talk to women, and when I'm empower these women. I'm now in construction fields. I'm in HVAC fields. It's not the same, but because I went and did that, I was like, oh, that wasn't the opportunity that I was looking for. And because, for whatever reason, right? There's all different reasons. And then, yeah, so it's because I said yes to opportunities in the beginning that I learned.
I have to laugh because, as you can see, with my background a little bit, pretty sports heavy. I've worked at numerous sports hall of fames, and of course, in your brain, my client is going to be athletes, and of course, I do work with some athletes. But it turns out I work with a ton of female entrepreneurs, and that became my jam because we get along well, and there's that give and take. But it's so funny because you go in thinking, okay, this is who I'm going to work with, and then the world, the universe, whoever. No, I mean, you might work with some of them and you might enjoy it, but you're actually going to work with this group of people.
And you're going to love it. You're not
Hmm.
even going to know, but you're going to love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%. It's so cool.
So, on everyone's journey, you make a decision, not really knowing the outcome. Can you give me a time where you just went for it?
Oh gosh. Starting the business. Um, there's been I think I'm trying to think of a good one. I think there's two things that come to my brain. One, I do an annual fundraiser every year for suicide prevention awareness. It goes hand in hand with stress management. It also goes hand in hand with blue collar field. So there's a lot of reason why it goes there. But I never ran a fundraiser before. I never ran an event before. I never, right? It was just like, let me see what happens. And it's just the coolest thing when you start to you go out of your comfort zone, right? You start to realize your actual full potential. And I think that's always cool. Even if we take the business hat off and I just talk about running. If you had this interview with me last year at the same exact time and you're like, oh, do you run? I'd be like, oh, what? What do you want me to do? No, thank you, ma'am. Is there ice cream at the end? Yes, I will do that. Right. And so it's just when you try these new things, you learn more about yourself, whether it's I didn't don't like it, or it's like, oh shoot, I'm actually pretty good at this, right? So even when the blue collar HVAC company was like, hey, can you come and speak to 40 people at 6:30 in the morning? I'm going, well, this is a lot to ask for, but I'll try it. And now they're one of my most consistent clients, and I've gotten clients because of them. So I think there's so much that happens. But then at the same time, I've done stuff where I was like, please, no, thank you, ma'am. I don't want to do that again. Right.
I think it's so much about saying, again, we go back to the maybe aspect of, saying yes to things that bring us joy. And I'll say just say yes to everything at least once, because again, you don't really know if you're going to, oh, I did not enjoy that at all. And mentally, I know I'll probably pass on that kind of opportunity, but I think it's so much of that experience.
100%.
What was your second one you were mentioning?
My clients, so I have a 6-month series program, right? And they hire me for it, bing, bang, boom. When I started that, I was like, great, they're not going to rehire me. That's going to be it. Well, then I have a couple companies that are like, hey, can you come back? Can you come back? And in my brain, I was scared because I'm like, well, no, these are the things I've done, right? These are the 6 I've seen that they worked. Like, that's what it is, but they want it the next level. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm not the next level person. Well, now it's 4 years later and they still rehire me for new things or to revisit things or to work on the next level. And so I think, again, like that pushing out of your comfort zone, it's kind of cool.
Jessica, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's so important to push yourself out of your comfort zone, whether it's taking a business opportunity, taking a new job, moving to a new city if you're able. I think it's so much about, I've been fortunate, I've kind of moved all over and found my home back in Wisconsin. But it's one of those things where I'm so happy that I lived in 4 states and like 9 cities throughout my career and just experience what I really like. And I got to the point where I kept flying back to Wisconsin. I'm like, all right, in my brain, there's probably something here that's besides obviously my family and friends, but like I enjoy it here. And I think for me, I had to be okay with that part. I'm like, okay, it was great living in Georgia or, all over the place, but I like it here. And I think a lot of times it's again through those experiences, knowing what you like, what you don't like.
Oh, 100%. And I think even to that, well, congrats on moving because I think it's the coolest thing to like travel and like see other things. And I think the other thing too is realizing that it doesn't have to be a hard no, right? So maybe I didn't for like the fundraiser, right? I was like, okay, well, I didn't like this aspect of it or this part of the workshop. I didn't like this aspect of it. You can change it. Or when I'm working with somebody, I was like, okay, well, can we edit it this way? And if they can, right? But I think it's when that awareness comes up and realizing that it's not just black and white. You can really try to edit things and adapt to things differently too.
Title of the podcast, Into the Unknown. What are you working on? What do you have going on right now?
Whew. I'm at this space where I just had my fundraiser last week, which was like also my book launch. So everything was all piled at once because why not? And so today I'm at my breathing, like, oh, let's just embrace / let's clean everything up because my office is still looks like a tornado. We just won't turn the screen.
Oh, trust me, I know. I know what I'm looking at right now. Behind
There's,
me.
it was a busy season for sure. I think so. The next thing is where I'm at is doing more of this, is kind of getting my name out differently and things like that, and really highlighting things. But what I do, like I was saying earlier, is like every year I take things off my plate every year, but then it's also what's the next challenge. So I'm working on the next challenge. I'm trying to next year is learning how to make my workshops longer. So right now they're an hour workshop, but I want to give options to make them even longer, eventually do a half-day workshop. So it's revisiting some of those things and learning how to grow the next level.
I love that. Can you tell me a little bit more about your book?
Yes, of course. So my book's called Drink the Coffee While It Is Hot, meaning it takes 2 minutes to sit with yourself every single day. We started the podcast with, what's your routine? And so my job is to teach people it's just 2 minutes every day. What are different ways to show up for yourself just 2 minutes every day, right? That you're not working on a project, you're not working on something for the house, you're just doing something for yourself where no one else needs you. You're just sitting with you. I'm not going to tell you meditation's not your jam. Great, no big deal. Just sit with your cup of coffee. No social media, nothing. If journaling is your jam, then write for 2 minutes, right? So it's figuring out what that is for you. So it's 10 different ways to show up for yourself, along with talking about the journey, the different journeys, and how I learned how to show up for myself.
I love that. If people want to learn more about your business, where can they find you?
Yeah, of course. So the website is journeytoyourself.net, or social media, it's Journey to Yourself 101.
Well, Jessica, I want to say thank you again for taking the time to talk with me today. I really appreciated the conversation.
Thank you. I had so much fun.
We'll talk soon.
Thanks. Bye.
That was another fun episode of Into the Unknown. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen. And if it provides you any value or entertainment, I would love if you shared it with others, liked, subscribed, and really just help the podcast grow. Again, tell a friend, tell a foe, just anyone who might enjoy hearing some stories of people's own journeys and what got them to where they are today. Till next time.